to approve as a correct record and authorise me to sign the minutes of the meetings held on the 1st of April 2021 and the extraordinary meeting held on the 10th of June 2021, which is that is on the paper folder that has been circulated. Are you happy for me to sign those documents as a correct record?
Yeah, if you're proposing that, I'll second it, Chairman.
I propose it. Second, we all agree? Yes? Anybody object? No, I can't see you. Okay, thank you. Business, there's no urgent business. Division of the agenda, I don't believe it will be necessary to divide the agenda. Declarations of interest. Members are invited to declare any personal or disclosable pecuniary interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any items at this meeting. The members got any interest to declare? No? Okay, thank you. Public forum. There are no questions that have been lodged. As I have been requested by Councillor Hopwood to take her item, which is the performance management report before the Climate Change and Biodiversity Action Plan update, and exercising my discretion as chair of the panel, agreed to that item being moved up the agenda. So we could start with Councillor Hopwood. Would you like to introduce the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for moving it up the agenda. Overall, the performance for the indicators has been very consistent over the last year, which is surprising, bearing in mind the pandemic and the additional work that the council Met officers had to take up, 12,000 grant claims, and also we've got a big IT programme. All this has been going on in the background with the pandemic, so I applaud the officers of this council because if you look at the KPIs, they are really good. The contact centre is the only one that isn't, and I think that's completely understandable and completely acceptable as we speak at this time, because not only have they had queries coming out of the pandemic to deal with, they have also had something like 200 extra calls a day over this past couple of months with regards to the waste contract. So I absolutely take no notice in the KPI of the contact centre at all at this time, and I again congratulate them on the way they are handling what are really bad, difficult circumstances. We've got different things coming in. We've got our queue buster, which we started rolling out, which gives customers the option of callbacks if they're on hold for more than 5 minutes. I think that's a really important thing to have moving forward. It's certainly ambitious for a council, because I think this is all modern technology, and if there's something that we have learned it's that actually people do want to work in a more modern way, and I think QBuster is one of those really good functions that we've had put into the system. I don't really want to say a lot more, Chairman, at the moment. I just think I would just urge members of this ONS to realise that I suppose I'm slightly disappointed that this is the first time that this panel has looked at the KPIs for a good 2 years, and I believe the only reason it's been brought forward today is because it was mentioned as a negative comment in the audit report. So I would like to see the KPIs come back onto the ONS agenda as a regular item, as they should have been, because KPIs are something that this ONS panel should be looking at. And sadly have neglected for a couple of years. So moving forward, we have, you know, if it could be put back on regularly, it would be welcome, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Mr. Davis want to say anything? Or to add to your introduction?
I only really to say that all the data is stored by the council anyway, so everyone here can have access to our Pentana system, so you can look at the data as it's put in the system. It's easy for us to get it out, so putting it on the agenda as a quarterly item is no problem at all. And going forward, we will be rolling out more live reporting for members, so dashboards directly out the system, so you can see at a glance what's happening in your local area, in processes that you're interested in. So the reporting as the new IT programme develops will give you kind of access to data at your fingertips if you so desire.
Thank you. Could I start off by asking some questions then from the chair, and then I'll open it for other members to ask questions. Turning to 1.5, 1.4, 1.5 and 1.6 of the report, where it says it acknowledges that the contact centre is one area where the performance is dipped, and it gives the reason why. Then at 1.5 and 1.6 mentions the steps that are being taken to improve the system, but there's no time or any period stated as to when this is hoped to be achieved. Could we please have some information as to when that is likely to happen, please?
So there's ongoing improvements happening within the contact centre. So QBuster is a fantastic new product that, let's say, allows people to press a number, hang up and get a call back from the council as if they were still waiting in the queue. There are ongoing improvements all the time because we're linking the phone system to Liberty Create, our CRM, our contact management product for the whole council. And then as more processes move into Liberty Create, we'll be looking at building these dashboards and giving members access to the live information. We're currently looking at rolling out access to members at the same time to look at rolling out portal functionality for members of the public. Probably towards the end of this year, we're looking at doing that level of development. We want to time it with other functionality so that we're not just selling a portal that's slightly useful to the customer, but sell a package of improvements online to give customers more access to the information that's useful for them. So we're trying to time the two things together. But the changes will be happening consistently over the next 6 to 8 months.
So are you saying that that will be completed by the end of this year?
The dashboards that we built that are available internally are available now. We could roll that sort of information out in the short term, but we want to deliver it as a package. So yes, as the more and more processes go into Liberty, that functionality, that usefulness will only grow. Certainly by the end of the year, we should have a fully functioning set of dashboards.
Okay, thank you. The next question is at 2.2 of the report. It says that in the last 4 lines, it says it has moved a large amount of less time-dependent work into the coming months and years. This will still require active and intelligent management to balance the capacity against the demands. So presumably that means that there is some work that has had to be set aside or not carried out. So could you perhaps amplify that? And secondly, what does the last sentence mean?
So during the pandemic, the business managers, Catherine Bowen and Sarah Moody, have been moving offices dynamically around the organisation where the priority is most needed. And the thing about prioritisation is that if you're choosing to prioritise one thing, you're choosing to deprioritise something else. So those parts of the organisation, those processes that we do, and the tasks that you have that aren't so time dependent, we have delay, and at some point you have to pay the piper. We have to do those processes as well. So it's highlights the fact that in order to maintain the level of performance that we've had over the last year, we have been able to push less important work back, and that will be needing to be picked up as it becomes older and older, it becomes more important to do that work. So that level of prioritisation, even if we're out of the pandemic response stage, will still be difficult to manage and will still require a lot of active management in order to ensure that we're not dropping the ball in certain areas.
But what is the less dependent work? What is it?
For example, a lot of the council tax and the business rates department have been involved in business grants. A lot of work we do on things like chasing debts, doing updates so people are still required to get discounts and things like that. There's a lot of tasks that the council has that we do as a matter of course internally in order to maintain our systems, maintain the integrity of our data, all those sort of things. But we've managed to put to one side. But at some point we need to bring back in so that that data is accurate and we're charging the right amount of money and those sort of things.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councillor Callan.
Thanks very much. I'm just going back to Councillor Hopwood, I think mentioned the word acceptable. I'm not sure a lot of the public think it's acceptable when they go from the chaos of their recycling service to they can't get through to the council to actually talk about the chaos of their recycling service. They mentioned 200 extra calls a day. I've been having a lot of residents tell me they can't get through on the phone, they can't make head or tail of what's online as well. It doesn't seem to fit their particular situation, so it's becomes very unsatisfactory, but it's perhaps inevitable with the level of the problems of the service we've had with the waste service. Now, in 4.1, more specifically, you talk about a queue buster, which looks like it may be a way to help people to get through. And you say it's been rolled out to the wasteline, the waste service line, as a sort of as a first, as a first before rolling it out further. What more specifically has that actually happened already, or is that just something that's?
Yes, it started last week. So there are lots of options within the technology about how long we want to allow people to wait before they move on to the scheme. What lines we use, what options they have for timings of calling them back. So the CST are taking a kind of a slow evolution approach where they're rolling out to certain areas and expanding as time goes on.
So what's the other question is how effective has it been? You said in the last week it's been used when people call about their waste issues. So do we know how effective that's been?
So far we call back every customer that's marked down that they want to call back. But there are issues with if you do have a large number of customers calling towards the end of the day, then you may be able to call them back on that same day. So we're looking at building a processing system so we can let those people know if they call us at 4 o'clock and you get 15, 20 callbacks and don't have time to complete them before the day finishes. But early data is a bit too early to tell because it was only late last week that it started.
Can we get the members get feedback on this, please? Because we're the ones that often deal with residents when they can't get through to the council, so they get through to us instead. So we're dealing with that. So it would be useful to know how matters are, how matters have been dealt with and how it's improving on the ground.
Okay. Any other member? Yeah, Councillor Thomas. Sorry, I've got Councillor Smith. Sorry, and then Councillor Thomas.
Okay, thank you. That's under items 4.2 and 4.3. It looks very encouraging that we're finally going to, as members, we're finally going to get a reasonably easy access route into all this information. It says the current proposal to create a member portal within the new system, which sounds great. Will we be able to access that from the desk, from the desktop from the front screen on our computers, as we can? We can currently do that with the planning portal. We've got direct access into that. I can see some nodding going on, so I'm hoping that is the case.
So there are two approaches we can take. So on my screen at the moment we have some dashboards that I've got up for complaints. For every area that we bring into the new Liberty system, we build a separate dashboard page for them. And we can add to those and change reporting how we design. That's logging into the Liberty system. Our intention, and that will go out now. We can set up separate logins for it. In a lot of work, But we can do that. We can spray this information out. It's live. It's available. Our intention is to roll out a member portal which has performance information at the same time we roll out a customer portal. And then that would be accessible just via any web page. And that member portal would have additional functionality like being able to kick off processes on behalf of residents that you can keep an eye on, various other functionality as well. So our intention is to go down that route and provide a suite of benefits rather than just access to performance information. So that would be available on any PC. You would on any web page, you would just log on as you would do normally and access that information.
So, what you're saying, at the same time, this is open to members, this is going to be open to members of the public?
Yes. So not performance information, but the concept of a customer portal. So at the moment, my team have done some really innovative work on data matching. So when a customer comes and submits a process online, we link them together. So in the background, all those processes about that person all linked together. They don't know that that's happening. We do a lot of smart stuff in the background. And that enables us to get a lot of benefits of portals without actually making the customers log in, sign in, do all those sort of things. Having a portal does give customer additional benefits in being able to track, save, part finished processes, all those sort of things. So we want to link the two together. And go live with a package of, again, for customers. It's not just log into this portal and get a small benefit, but actually log into this portal and here's all these other things you can find out about. So when they log in, they can have a page which tells them about their customer, how to contact them, those sort of things, what's happening in their area, whether there are any hotspots of appropriate issues going wrong, all those sort of things we can put out rather than one person at all.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. I find myself fully in agreement with Councillor Hopwood, perhaps not on the general charge to ONS, but certainly on the fact that the call centre data, I'm content that I understand entirely the reason why. It has been a perfect storm, the combination of the waste disaster and the pandemic. So I get that. I salute the customer relations management. I think it's essential to get back the support of the public in terms of contacting this council. My question actually, Chair, is probably more even for this panel, that I noted in the appendices the planning enforcement cases that have been provided by this report. And I think that we as a panel need to be keeping a very close eye on that, because there does not seem to be a significant drop in outstanding cases. And I know from parish councils across the district that is a significant concern, planning enforcement. So perhaps I could ask you to consider how we deal with that in future meetings.
Yes, can I just say, I have, after we've dealt with questions, and it's a matter of the panel deciding the recommendation that comes over to this committee, one that I will be proposing concerns the matter of planning enforcement. So we can deal with that.
Great.
Right, do I have questions from any other members?
Just one quick one from me, please.
Councillor Jackson.
In 3.2b, it's about the recruitment and challenges in training staff, and because people have to be redeployed for the waste. What do you anticipate, like recruiting more staff to cover it, and for how long? Or
It's probably more room to reward.
If I can, like in terms of recruiting waste staff.
no, contact centre.
Contact centre.
Yeah, because of so many people. So you've got 200 extra calls a day.
Yeah.
I just wondered, what the.
Chairman, can I say, before we get hung up on 200 extra calls a day, this report was written well over a week ago, and this data is well over a week old. The contact centre calls for waste have reduced significantly this week. So the issues, as promised by FCC for waste, are being dealt with, and the problems, although still there, are significantly reducing. So let's not get hung up on 200 calls a day, because at this present moment that is not happening. They are reducing significantly.
With all due respect, Councillor Hopwood, I know that people have been saying they've given up ringing because they haven't been able to get through, so
Well,
I don't know whether they...
Can we ask Drew to answer the question?
I think your general principle is in terms of the staff, we remove staff from our case management team across the customer services, depending on the demand. So that's been happening during this peak period. we'll continue to do that. It's always been planned to make sure that there are sufficient resources there. If we feedback that people can't get through, we'll take that on board and make sure that if necessary, move some more people across.
Any other questions? Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, just a quick one. About the customer portal, I mean, it sounds fantastic. It does everything it appears to. And that's really my question. Would you be able to track, or would it be available for customers to track some things like council tax and we've had enforcement issues, but complaints about rates, these individual things, they'll all be trackable by this portal.
So for the customer, we have various portals already. So there is a portal for council tax that's powered by one more get people can log into. The Liberty portal would be for all the other processes, but we would probably try and link so that if you sign into one portal, you automatically just move across to get access to that other information. But yes, the idea would be that the portal would be kind of a one-stop shop for them to get information about where they live. So because they log in, they tell us who they are and where they are. We can give them information about their local area, and sufficiently anonymised, we can give them information about what's happening. So if there's an outbreak, some sort of flight time, for instance, in their area, we can tell them the sort of things that's happening. But then also all of their processes, so anything that they've initiated with the council, they will be able to see the life cycle of those processes. And the way that Liberty works, anything that's happened, so any correspondence that we've had with them, say we sent them an email and they haven't got it, they would be able to log on to the portal. If we chose to display that document, they would be able to see that information on the portal.
And you mentioned sort of functionality for members whereby they could sort of put in alerts to say, I want to track what's happening for this individual and send me an email when such and such happens.
Exactly. Fundamentally, there's no reason why. The great thing about Liberty is because it's a low-code platform, we can basically build it however we want. So that's when functionality is useful and needed, and we've highlighted that quite a lot when we were scoping the product out. And yeah, we can build that in.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for answering the question. If we could then move on to the recommendation that's ahead of the report. Item 2 calls for us to review the information and to so what I'd like to propose from the chair that the following be included within the recommendation. That there be a report to the panel at its meeting on the 4th of November 2021 on the progress being made in improving the contact centre performance and the progress being made in the changeover as set out at paragraph 1.5 and 1.6 of the report. So I'll just repeat that. So there be a report to the panel at its meeting on the 4th of November 2021 on progress being made in improving the contact centre performance and the changeover set out at paragraphs 1.5 and 1.6 of the report, and also dealing with the matter of planning enforcement. Just remind members that it was a short while ago that the planning enforcement was considered by the...
Councillor Pearce. Councillor Pearce is willing.
Well, I'll finish and then I'll speak to Councillor Pearce. The next recommendation is that in respect of planning enforcement, that there be a report to the panel on the progress being made in dealing with the planning enforcement matters that have arisen out of the last report to the panel. In other words, what progress is being made in respect of those measures that the panel dealt with the last time we had enforcement before. Councillor Pearce, did you want to raise?
Yeah, I was going to raise something specifically on enforcement, if I may, Chair.
Can I come to that when?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm putting that is a proposal on the chair. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second.
Councillor Smith. Right. If I could just briefly address the proposal. You heard in the answers to the question that it's hoped that by the end of the year there will be an improvement in the contact centre performance as well as the progress being made in respect of the changeover. I think that bearing in mind we have a meeting on the 4th of November, I think it would be that would be a suitable time for us as a panel to review the amount of progress and to ensure, hopefully, that it will be achieved by the end of the year. On the matter of the planning enforcement, as picking up the point that Councillor Thomas made, as I mentioned a moment ago, we did, as a panel, consider enforcement a while back, and there were certain recommendations. And I think it's important that we, as a panel, revisit those recommendations and see what progress has been made. Do you want to say anything at all, Secretary?
No, I mean, it is the sort of thing that ONS, needs to look at. So, it's very good. It's very good.
First of all, I'll ask any members of the panel whether they wish to speak, and then after I'll go to Councillor Pearce. Member of the panel wish to speak? No? Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chairman. With particular reference to planning enforcement, you will see from the 3 graphs that the outstanding number of cases is decreasing. You will probably all be aware too that there have been staffing problems in this department, but I understand that I think recruiting new staff has been reasonably successful. Obviously it's going to take them some time to bed in, but if they're anything like as successful as the latest member of the team to have joined up previously, we should see a good improvement in this. But what I wanted to say was that we've all got a part to play in this, and I don't know how many of you have been in touch with Helen Smart, say in the last 2 months, to discuss with her enforcement cases on your lists that are not expedient to pursue because they're arising from neighbour disputes rather than an actual planning matter. And if you would all do this, then I think you would find the list would shorten itself quite considerably, because you all know that you've got things on that list that aren't worth pursuing. And if you have got that, then please tell Helen and she'll get something done about it. As to the rest of these performance indicators, actually looking at graphs isn't very helpful. What we need is some definite performance indicators and then a traffic light system when those are being exceeded or not obtained, and some explanation as to why that's not happening. That would actually be much more helpful than just a set of graphs for you to look at. And I think that, that would take a lot of heat out of this report and would be far more informative to this committee. So maybe you could consider that for a future report. But as this is the first one you've had for 2 years, you may just be finding your feet on this one, Chairman.
I don't think that remark is for Councillor.
Well, it is the first one you've had for 2 years, so
no, it isn't 2 years. That's not correct, actually. But I don't think it will serve any useful purpose in this debating when the last time this panel considered the KPIs. So let's not go down that avenue. Any members wish to speak? No, in that case, we'll go.
Well, only to say that I actually agree with Councillor Pearce about the data presentation. I think she's probably right.
Yeah, well, hopefully that will then come out in the report that we're now about to vote on. When the report comes later on in this year, that can be addressed in the report.
Could I clarify, please? So I've typed it here and I will email it to the members of the committee shortly. Our apologies that we haven't got the screen. But a report to the committee's 4th of November 2021 meeting on progress being made on the contact centre performance and the changeover set out at 1.5 and 1.6.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Point 2 stays as it is at the moment with point 1.
Yeah.
2 becomes 3, and then 4, I haven't quite got it, in respect of planning enforcement.
The report comes to the committee. If we make that the meeting in September, which is the 30th of September. previous, following the previous recommendations arising out of the enforcement matter that previously came before the panel.
Can we just check? You mentioned September. Then. I think when we talk about this, or are we talking about two different things to report at two different meetings?
The planning is one aspect in September, and then in November would be the matter dealing with the contact centre. They're two distinct projects. Are we all clear on what we're voting on? Yes?
Yes.
So all those in favour, put your hands up please. Thank you. One count.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unanimous.
Thank you. And all those against? Any abstentions?
No.
No. Thank you very much. Thank you. We could then move on to the item of the Climate Change and Biodiversity Action Plan update. Members, there is a report before us, and it is the normal procedure for the executive member and the...
Chairman, he's next door. Can he be allowed to come in, please?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise that.
No, he is next door.
Okay.
I'll give you that. Sure.
I think there might be other members who want to attend as well if they receive.
Okay. Welcome, Councillor. As I was saying, the next item on the agenda is the Climate Change and Biodiversity Action Plan update. And the normal procedure is for the executive member and officers to speak to the report that's before you, and then for members to ask questions, and then following that, there will be a debate. However, Councillor Mackay, one of our members, has got a proposal to put to the meeting that is probably best dealt with straight away, because if his proposal is carried, then it will not be necessary for there to be for the executive member or the officers to give a report followed by questions. So, in order to possibly save time, what I will do is ask Councillor Kay to move the motion, and then be seconded, and then we'll take it from there. I think this motion is being distributed.
The slides are also in the email that you just received.
So first of all, Councillor Kerr, would you like to move your motion, and then I'll ask for it to be seconded, and then I'll ask you to speak to it.
Well, you've all got copies, so I move the motion for you.
Right. Do you have a seconder?
I'm happy to second. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor McCall, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Members will have seen a list of questions that I sent round. I think really, in order to do justice to this report, which is obviously an important report and it contains an awful lot of information, I don't really think that we can properly examine this and do our job properly in the time available. And so I'm putting this motion forward in order that because I think a task and finish group is the right and proper way of proceeding in this matter.
Councillor Rose, do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait until later? Does any other members wish to speak? Councillor Ross?
Yeah, I wouldn't support this motion, and the reason why is I have a concern which I've voiced about the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in the past, which is that we meet as an Overview and Scrutiny Committee and we organise more meetings, basically. So one of the things I've said before about this particular committee is it seems to be a functional committee to organise another meeting occasionally after the committee. And it never kind of ends. You just go in a cycle of constant meetings that are generated by meetings. And so I wouldn't vote in favour of it because I've seen this many times on Review and Scrutiny already in the last couple of years, and I couldn't support it.
Okay. Have you finished? Councillor Snowden.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Once again, I would agree to an extent with what Councillor Austin is saying. The problem is that we're just duplicating work. A lot of the questions which Councillor Mackay poses and asked, I would have thought it's the function of officers to answer those questions. We don't. If a member asks questions, we don't normally set up a task and finish group to answer those questions. And, we're just in danger of duplicating work. We've got the climate change and biodiversity panel, which is set up to look at this type of thing specifically. And as I say, I'm just concerned that we are, as Councillor Austin says, to a degree, we're creating work for work's sake if we're not careful.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak?
I'll speak.
Councillor.
I'll speak as Chairman. Councillors will be aware from the doctrine of common sense that I had slightly early sight of this motion, not least because you will see that my name is on it. So I say to you now, if this panel decides that the task and finish is the right route to go down, and if this panel decides that they want me to chair such a panel, I'll happily chair it. What I would say to Councillor Austin is that our mutual first experience, maybe not your first, Councillor Austin, because you've been a councillor longer than I have, but our mutual first experience of task and finish was the task and finish group set up to look at the palliative service, which was set up on the back of some excellent points that you made at an overview and scrutiny meeting. We had a very successful task and finish. We worked closely with officers outside of this meeting, and I think it was an excellent example of collaborative work that didn't hold up time during an ONS and allowed officers and councillors to work together to come up with a good set of plans at the end of that. And as such, I tend to feel that task and finish as a process is an extremely valuable way of allowing that collaborative work. Having said that, I am not by any stretch of the imagination touting for work, as it were. I'm quite busy enough as it is, so please don't misunderstand me. If it's the view of this body that we go down this path and we want me to share it, then I will. But I would do so on the basis that I happen to believe that task and finish allows us to spend more time carefully considering how we can best help the executive, which I think is probably our role as an overview and scrutiny, by acting as a sounding board for them. So I would be happy to support it on that basis.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
Thank you. Just to build on that, I feel like the discussion has been somewhat about task and finish groups rather than this particular matter, and I just wish to say a few words about this matter. I think that the situation, that the complexity of climate change and biodiversity loss is such that there really couldn't be enough work done on it. And the trade-off, of course, is that we only have so much resources. So the option of members stepping forward, ideally out of their own free will. I know that in this proposition it's mentioned that the leaders of the group would choose the members. However, I know that I would be happy to do that, and I think other members also would be happy to give their time to give serious thought and consideration to what is an incredibly complex issue. I think it is actually disgraceful that our ongoing climate change and biodiversity working group was abandoned after only 1 year and with actually very little output. I think we should have seriously readdressed how that working group worked in order to try and find a way to actually come up with good results and where it wasn't working very well. However, I think in this case, at this point, when we have this plan at the stage that it's at, it would be an excellent use of member time to get to grips with this report, get to grips with where we're at, and hopefully, in order that we can learn a lot more about what is needed for the next steps, so that we're not kind of being walked blindly through an incredibly complex issue, and that ideally this working group should be in support of officers who are doing an amazing job with incredibly limited resources. I absolutely commend Adam, Andrew, and anyone else who's been a part of doing the work that has been, you know, it is completely unheard of to try and tackle such an existential crisis as an officer of a district council. So anything we can do to help, I would be absolutely willing to support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer.
I was quite disturbed and maybe slightly annoyed to get at 9 o'clock this morning when I turned my computer on a 24-page document, which I was supposed to consider today, albeit that may have changed. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that as far as John's note is concerned, it may be the most relevant document in the world, but I haven't had any opportunity at all to digest it properly. So and then suddenly, again, at a moment's notice, we're presented with an amendment of this document, and I think if I was going to vote in favour of that, I'd want an absolute guarantee that there's no duplication in the effort that's being undertaken by other people by the task and finish group, because that, I think, would be a waste of time.
Okay. If I could say a few words, I support the motion for several reasons. The first reason is that this is an important task for the panel. Just remind you that at the full council meeting on the 17th of December, full council gave the responsibility to this panel to carry out a review and scrutiny of where we're at as far as the action plan is concerned, and that was every 6 months. Now to deal, and that is an important task that has been given to this panel, and it cannot be that we should deal with it as just one item on an agenda. If we are to do this properly, then the panel needs the time to consider. And it cannot be dealt with in just a half an hour or 1 hour on an agenda. And so the way to deal with this effectively and efficiently is, in my opinion, the way put forward by Councillor McCray, in that it being dealt with by way of the task and finish group. That will allow members of that group to work closely, not only with the officers, but also with the executive member on coming forward with a positive response, to the report. And don't forget that whatever comes out of this report, and the recommendation, whether it comes today or whether it comes after the task and finish groups complete its task, it is a recommendation that goes to the executive for it to consider. And therefore, what it boils down to is that members of this council are being given sufficient time in which to consider the report and come forward with their views as to how they think these matters should be dealt with or addressed. And it's not just a matter of a report coming to this committee and for us as a committee to say, oh, that looks nice. I think we've got to do a lot more than that. So I think the task and finish group will allow members and officers and the executive member to work together to come forward, to come to this overview and scrutiny meeting in November, and then to put forward any recommendations it feels necessary to the executive. And it is the way of involving the members, because quite honestly at task and finish groups meeting is not just restricted to the members who sit on the group, it is also those members who are not on the group can attend, and if we do agree to move forward with a task and finish, then I'm sure Councillor Thomas will allow non-members of the task and finish group to make a contribution. Now, if we do not go along with this proposal, then we're in for a very long meeting to see today, because there are a lot of questions that need to be put, and the question and answer session may take quite a while, and then following that there will need to be a debate. So it may well be that if we do continue, then we're going to be here for a long time, or alternatively we have a special ONS meeting to deal with it. It seems to me the most effective way of dealing with this is through a task and finish group. We've shown as a panel that where we've had task and finish groups, we've been effective, and most, if not all, of the recommendations coming out of these previous groups have been accepted by the executive or full council. So it's a positive way forward, and it's not there to be destructive in any way. So that's why I'm supporting the motion. Does any member wish to speak? Yes, Council.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I particularly agree with Councillor Spencer that more notice would have been helpful. You know, receiving this on the morning is not ideal. I think if this is to happen, it needs to actually produce outcomes and not just be a talking shop. And I was particularly interested to know if Mr. Powell and Mr. Williams have any thoughts on it, whether they would think it would actually be a helpful thing to have for their work.
Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I think provided it doesn't duplicate the existing work, it doesn't take away the capacity of officers to continue to deliver against this wide agenda, then there may be some benefit in terms of policy development within the strategy. I think the terms of reference of the group would be very clear, and also it would be very important that the executive lead member was at all meetings to ensure that what's going forward in the climate change strategy and the corporate strategy is included. So yeah, that's what I'd say at this stage.
Chairman, could I just ask Mr. Powell how he envisages this, should this task and finish be set up, how he envisages this is going to be resourced? What officers are going to be involved in this? In particular, that's the question. What amount of officer time, would you think is likely to be devoted to this? In my estimation, is a considerable amount.
Well, I think it's a task and finish group. I think we have to be very clear that that's what it is. It starts and finishes. A finite number of meetings. In terms of officer input, including there will be officers involved, including someone to administer, and then Mr. Williams and myself attending. So no doubt there will be a relatively high input of staff time to support this proposal.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy, do you wish to conclude the debate?
I think...
sorry, have I missed? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Option?
Oh, sorry. I had a blank then. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of points actually. I mean, I pick up very much on what Councillor Rose said. regarding, the fact that we have a lot of work on as a climate working group. And I think I was very disappointed when that was closed. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that this would sort of like resurface in this form, not at all. But what I would say is that this is a really dynamic situation at the moment. I mean, any of us that are linking in with Sustainable South Hams, what's going on, for example, in Teambridge with their wildlife wardens, there's all sorts of really exciting opportunities being opened up in other places. And I think this would give us an opportunity to feed some of that in and keep us, because otherwise we're putting huge pressure actually on officers. And, I get feedback, for example, from what's going on with our own group that meet up with the officers, because people just, let me know what's going on, which is very useful. And there's just so much going on. I think we could actually, I was proposing in addition to this, or to kickstart it, should I say, is that our next full council meeting on the 15th of July would actually have an informal council session in the morning. So maybe we could actually have a bit of an open forum for things to be put in the pot, conversations, what ideas that are coming up. And that might actually help to sort of, that group itself could actually shape it down as well. So that might actually give, a bit of shape to this and actually make it a productive, 2 or 3 sessions of the task group to actually just give something that gives good feedback and feed in to what's going on from the officers. And I think that would really support the officers and also take advantage of what I think is quite a wide knowledge base and resource base within the membership of this council.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. We're dealing with the motion that's before the panel. Unfortunately, you can't make an amendment as you're not a member of the panel, but perhaps we could deal first with the motion that is on the table. No, you've already spoken, Councillor Watson. You can only speak once. Councillor Mackay.
Okay. First, can I apologise to those who felt that the document that I sent out this morning was very late in the day. I was under no obligation to circulate my questions at that point at all. I wasn't really expecting them to be answered. I was trying to indicate or give a flavour of the kind of questions that I wanted to ask. And I'm sure other councillors have their own questions. And the sheer scale of the number of questions was really the only thing that I was trying to convey, and the size of the task ahead, and the justification for this motion, which are a task and finish group, and as has been indicated, we've had several task and finish groups, all of which have delivered recommendations and have actually been quite successful and useful. I think they appear to work, and I don't see that this necessarily has to be a drain on officer time and resource. What we want to achieve is to come up with recommendations which will help this council deliver on a climate change and biodiversity emergency plan, and that surely it's got to be a good thing. And if we as members can bring some ideas and recommendations to that, it doesn't necessarily have to result in officers being sort of having to do extra work. In fact, hopefully it will relieve them of some tasks. So I would just recommend to you that we vote for this, and I'm sure the outcome will actually be good for the council.
Thank you. Right, we'll move to the vote. You can hand up all those in favour. So, all those against? Thank you very much. So that is carried. Thank you. In that case, it will not be necessary for there to be a report and a question and answer session. That can be dealt with at the task and finish group. Thank you, Councillor Holway, for coming along. Sorry we weren't able to. Okay. Okay, the next item. The agenda is a task and finish updates, and we don't have anything on that. And next is the panel work programme.
Chair, can I just, sorry, but I'm a bit concerned that we abandoned this item, because if there is a task and finish group, it won't involve the whole town. Surely, there are members who won't be on the task and finish group who should have the opportunity. I don't know. I'm concerned that having agreed to set up the task and finish group, the ONS has just moved straight on.
I agree.
I'm quite. I just think we ought to be.
Would it be an idea to look at the task and finish group now, if you what people that you want to close for?
No, I think the selection of I think one thing at a time. First of all, there's a point being raised that Councillor Smith made a point that felt that perhaps there should be a report and that there should be questions. I know the questions, and I'm just the point, as I understand it from Councillor McKay, is that the issues that were raised by way of questions could be dealt with by the task and finish. And just remember, at the end of the day, the task and finish group will report back to the panel with its recommendations that we then as a panel debate. So in other words, it's not as though this report is being ignored or the issues arising out of it. It's being actually addressed by the task and finish group, who will, at the meeting in November, come back with recommendations, and as part of the report accompanying the recommendations will be undoubtedly the report that's before us. In other words, what we are doing as a panel is effectively adjourning discussion on this report until we have received the report from the task and finish with their recommendations. So this is not being swept under the carpet. It's being effectively passed to task and finish group to come back with recommendations for us all then to address at the meeting at the beginning of November.
No, I wasn't accusing you of sweeping it under the carpet. No, I was just concerned that it was it's a major plank of the agenda. I mean, okay, so I can. I understand.
The chair has that.
Yes. Yeah. So effectively, we're deferring the debate on this until the November meeting. That'll be the time that we. That being the case, then you yourself have said that it's a major thing. Then we need to, as a yourself between us, we need to ensure that we've got sufficient time to so that it's not worked out. Okay, sorry.
Councillor Rose, do you want to...
The only point I was going to make is that, as Councillor said, that this is an incredibly dynamic issue. 3 months is quite a long time, and I'm just wondering if there might be an opportunity before 3 months' time for us to look at this, to look at the result of the task and finish group.
Well, can I answer that point? First of all, is that the task and finish group will be required to make an interim report to the ONS panel meetings that are at the end of September. So there will be a progress report from the task and finish group then. So we need to bear that in mind. As far as the date is concerned, my understanding is this, is that the original proposal was that this report from the task and finish group was to come to the meeting at the end of September. In effect, we have a meeting on the 22nd of July. Quite clearly that would not be sufficient time. The next meeting after that was the 3rd of September. And after consultation with the officers, and in particular Mr. Powell, he requested that for resources, etc., he would prefer it to be at the beginning of November. So in fact it's been drafted in such a way so as to accommodate the resources that are available and taking on board the comments of Mr. Powell.
If the officers are happy with that,
Chairman, can I just point out to Councillor Snowden that, as we said, what we're effectively doing is turning this agenda item into a task and finish, at which all members of ONS, or indeed all council members, would be welcome.
Okay, can we move on to the next item? Thank you. Right, the next item is the panel work programme. One of the items that is in the work programme of our next meeting, which is on the 22nd of July, is for the panel to consider when it's a review of the waste contract. And members may recall that at the extraordinary meeting held at Tavistock I think it was the 10th of June, part of the resolution that was passed provided for FCC to come to that meeting on the 22nd of July and to report on its performance. I am the view, and I think this view is shared by officers as well, that it's probably a little early for FCC to be called back. We had two sessions with FCC. There was the meeting with ONS, and then there was the full council meeting. I think the view is that perhaps it's too early to call them back on the 22nd of July. That being the case, as far as this particular item is concerned, I would like to propose from the chair that we postpone the attendance of FCC at our meeting on the 22nd of July, and that they attend the meeting, our meeting after that, that's on the 30th of September. In addition to that, I propose that we request the attendance of the executive member and officers at our meeting to be held on the 22nd of July to provide an update on the performance of FCC and the actions being taken to bring about a sustained improvement in the delivery of the waste and recycling service. And then finally, propose that the panel requests a report to be provided to the meeting on the 22nd of July 2021 on the action to be taken by the council to bring about a fully operational waste collection service as originally provided for in the contract between it and FCC. So I'll just repeat that again so it's clear. First, that it is resolved that the panel, one, postpone the attendance of FCC at its meeting to be held on the 22nd of July 2021 until the meeting to be held on the 30th of September 2021. Two, request the attendance of the executive member and officer at its meeting to be held on the 22nd of July 2021 to provide an update on the performance of FCC and actions being taken to bring about sustained improvement in the delivery of the waste and recycling service. And finally, requires a report to be provided to the meeting on the 22nd of July 2021 on the action to be taken by the council to bring about a fully operational waste collection service as originally provided for in the contract between it and FCC. I'd like to propose that from the chair. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I will. I will second it, but in doing so, I'd just like an assurance from Councillor Pearce as the leader that the executive is still meeting and still intends to meet with FCC on a weekly basis.
That's correct, Chairman.
Any other?
In fact, we haven't met this week, but we otherwise will be meeting weekly. It's largely because Mr Molyneux's away and FCC could only meet us on Monday or Tuesday. We thought that was too soon this week, so we're seeing them early next week instead.
So there's a proposal before the panel, it's been seconded. Does any members wish to say anything or add to or speak to what's being proposed? No? In that case, we'll... So, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, Chairman. Yeah, I'd just ask if it's possible to have some, if members, maybe confidential, but could have sights of our legal obligations with FCC. I think that's, for many people, that's quite a critical part of their kind of thinking at the moment as to what, what is our legal obligations and situation. And certainly as a member, I would like to know that, and I just wonder if that could be something that could be requested for the next overview and scrutiny to be part of the papers, albeit pink papers.
Okay, so Hodge, can I suggest that you actually make a request for the document, and if any member wishes to see that document, make a request. I think it would probably be best to deal with it that way rather than in a motion.
So, well,
and then if there's any problems, then that should perhaps be raised elsewhere.
well, I was only thinking, Chairman, that if that has been circulated, if there was seen as necessary, then at that overview and scrutiny, you could go into part 2 and actually maybe have a bit of a conversation. Or would that be something that you would see as executive? I'm not quite sure, but I just feel it's a really important thing that needs to be borne in mind as we go through this process, because I'm personally deeply dissatisfied with what's going on.
Can I just add, I think that rather than incorporate that within the proposal, is that I'm actually meeting, Mr. Fairburn on Friday, tomorrow, and I will put this to him as to your request. I think it's probably best to deal with that rather than us to include it in the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Howard.
There was legal advice given at the full council meeting the other week, and elements of the contract have been shared, as members know. I think a request to Mr. Fairburn or to myself and Mr. Montague, we will look at what we can and can't share in terms of confidentiality at this stage. Well, just a question on the proposal. Clearly, the focus of the council is on improving performance of the contract and working closely, and I think anything that dissuades us from doing that is probably not really helpful. I think parts 1 and 2 of what's proposed covers what would be reasonable for us to bring back to that meeting by the 22nd of July. So just really again a comment about resource and where the focus is of officers and the executive at the moment trying to resolve performance matters. We'll do that, Chairman.
Thank you.
I was just going to add one thing, just for everyone's information, that I think a few members of the public have asked for freedom of information reports, and there is, someone has posted on all the community social media sites in Kingsbridge and Salcombe the information they got back. So a lot of it is actually on social media already.
Yes.
Well, anything that's come out of the organisation will be stuff that is publicly available.
Yeah.
Anything that's commercially confidential or part of the contract with FCC will or should not have been circulated by anyone, certainly not by the council officers. So I don't know what you're talking about. I can find out.
It's a freedom of information request that someone, a member of the public, has put on Facebook.
So the FOI will allow information that we can disclose, but some information is not disclosed even under an FOI, as I'm sure you appreciate.
Yes, I can.
I just want to make the point that it's perhaps inevitable when you outsource to a private company, a public service, and it's gone very wrong. I think people feel they're entitled to a number of things, including to know why it's gone wrong, who's at fault, whose head might roll, etc., etc. I think it's perfectly understandable, and this is the position we find ourselves in. And I'm not sure we should be saying who's entitled to see what. And it is a public service, and people are asking all sorts of things, like they want to contact the ombudsman, they're wanting council tax refunds, and we're in a this is a position we find ourselves in. So I don't think we should be too surprised when we hear that this is happening in freedom of information requests.
Can I say, I don't want this just to wander into a debate on the waste limits. I think we've had two lengthy sessions on that. There will be another session on the 22nd. I think we're really just talking about procedure as opposed to the getting involved in the issues. Councillor Thomas.
On procedure, Chairman, in the light of what Mr Powell just said, would it be worth the panel considering, so as to be seen to be working with officers in terms of their availability and their resource, considering moving the date on the third point, the actions, to September rather than July? That would give the officers, that would then tie in with the FCC postponement, that would give the officers time to take those different points at different meetings.
You're proposing an amendment.
I'm proposing an amendment, Mr Chairman.
Do you have a second?
I'm sure, I would hope I would find a seconder. I do have a seconder in Council Chairman, Mr Chairman.
Okay, so what's being proposed as an amendment?
The amendment is simply the date on where one is postpone FCC to the 30th of September, and two is to invite the executive member and officers to update on FCC at the July meeting. Three would be the report on actions to be taken by SHDC for a full operational service to come to this meeting on the 30th of September.
So what is being proposed is that on the 30th of September we not only hear from FCC, but also at the same time the matter that was raised, that item 3 also be dealt with.
Absolutely, Mr Chairman.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, there's move of the motion to accept that.
Concerned that is taking the pressure off FCC to a degree.
Sorry, through you, Chairman.
The problem we've got here is that we've got, we've got a lengthy set of proposals which you've read out, but none of us can actually see in front of us.
I've just written them down.
Good for you. Just going forward, it's always very helpful if you can, see what we're being asked to vote on and consider, etc., on the screen. I know, it's a practical matter, but
when the term to the changes, it should resolve. But with the capacity in this room, it makes it difficult to do.
Would you like to repeat what it is you're proposing to change?
Certainly, yeah. Through you, Chair. Councillor Birch, number one, suggested that we postpone FCC reporting to ONS to the 30th of September. All I'm saying is that we should also have the report on actions taken by this council to provide a fully operational service, also to take place on the 30th of September rather than July, to take into light what Mr Powell said about officer capacity. We would still, on number two, we would still ask the executive member and officers to come to us in July and update us on FCC's performance. So I would argue we're still holding their feet to the fire, but getting our exec member and officers to report to us in July, and giving FCC the chance to come back and be able to tell us in September what they've done.
Councillor Chairman.
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to say, I understand Councillor Smurden's point, but in response, I think the weekly meetings that are being had with FCC, I think that is holding them to account on a regular basis anyway.
Okay, so what I suggest we do to make it easier, we take it one by one. So that the first of all is the number one is postpone the attendance of FCC at its meeting at our meeting to be held on the 22nd of July until the meeting that is being held on the 3rd of September 2021. All those in favour?
That's 10. Attention.
Any against?
And one against.
One against. Secondly, then, request the attendance of the executive member and officers at its meeting to be held on the 22nd of July 2021 to provide an update on the performance of FCC and actions being taken to bring about a sustained improvement in the delivery of the waste and recycling service. All those in favour?
That's 11 unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. Right, and then finally, I'll read out the proposal that is being amended by Councillor Thomas is that the panel requires a report to be provided to the meeting on the 30th of September 2021 on the action to be taken by the Council to bring about a fully operational waste collection service as originally provided for in the contract between it and FCC. All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. So that concludes that matter. On the matter of the work programme, there is just the items to be added to that are the items arising out of the performance management report. That's the two items that were the subject of. Are there any other items or queries on the panel work programme? No?
Louise Daly is left.
Sorry?
Louise Daly is left, so she won't be reading up to on CSV. That's a shame.
We will on it, another officer.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, Councillor Rose.
Chairman, I have a very small one which doesn't fit in anywhere. It's not the work agenda, but it's more like the work performance, which is just a very small point. I've raised this before, but why have we degenerated to having plastic bottles and paper agendas when we've got computers in front of us and we've all got the capacity to bring a bottle of water? Thank you, Chairman, and Councillor Pearce and Councillor Chow for showing how easy it is to bring a bottle of water. Could we please actually take our climate emergency declaration seriously and stop with the plastic and the paper? Thank you.
Point taken, Councillor Rose. Right, thank you very much indeed. I think that ends the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.